Greetings, fellow adventurers. This is darkfireslide, and welcome to another Pathfinder tutorial video. Today, we're going to talk about three basic concepts in Pathfinder that will hopefully help you understand when building characters, what certain strengths of characters are, and how to identify them in game. Because the way the game presents the information isn't the best. And if there's anything I'm actually going to request myself personally, the developers to kind of fix this because. It's something that everybody should know. But anyway, we're going to talk about three basic concepts today. We're going to talk about base attack bonus, what that is, saving throws, and hit die. And what these three concepts are, what they mean, and how you can use them to help build your characters. So first of all, let's talk about base attack bonus. In Pathfinder, every class, so this is tied to class, every class has a base attack bonus progression that is anywhere from 1 every level to 1 every 2 levels, basically. So basically equal to the character's level or equal to 1/2 the character's level. And there's a mid range as well. So, but what is base attack bonus? So the actual attack bonus itself is your chance of actually hitting an enemy. So attack has nothing to do with damage. The attack roll, if you want to think of it as just accuracy instead of attack to help you remember what it does, think of it that way, because attack has nothing to do with damage. That being said, attack is still very, very useful to have, because enemies often have a good, what's called armor class, which is something I'll talk about in a later video. But the way the base mechanics work is every character has an attack bonus when they make an attack, and every character has an armor class, and not all armor classes are the same, that you have to meet. So if an enemy has 20 armor class for whatever reason, you have to meet that on the roll of a 20-sided die. So for example, let's say you're a first level fighter, you have 18 strength, so that's +4. Your base attack bonus is +1, and you've decided to choose weapon focus with a longsword, and you have a longsword because it's a very common weapon. So that's going to give you 4 from your strength stat. It's going to give you +1 from your base attack bonus. As we can see, fighters get 1 base attack bonus at level 1, and then a +1 to your attack from the weapon focus feat. Which you can take as long as you are proficient with a weapon in particular. And it only applies to that specific weapon. So that's a +6 to hit, a +6 attack bonus. So that would mean if an enemy you're trying to attack has a 20 armor class and you have a +6 to hit, you would have to roll, and you don't actually see the dice rolls unless you mouse over or right click the text when a character makes an attack roll, and this includes enemies as well. When you make that attack roll, you would have to roll at least a 14, which would equal a 20, which would actually hit the enemy, and then do a separate damage roll. So how does base attack bonus progress? So there are 3 grades of base attack bonus. There is good base attack bonus, there is average base attack bonus, and there is poor base attack bonus. Good base attack bonus is typically what you find on specifically barbarians, fighters, monks, paladins, rangers, and the stalwart defender, eldritch knight, I believe the eldritch knight anyway, and duelist prestige classes. Good base attack bonus progression increases every level. So whatever level the fighter, if you are just a pure fighter, every level of fighter that you take, you're going to have a base attack bonus equal to your level. So if you're a 5th level fighter, you'll have a base attack bonus of 5. Same thing with a paladin. If you're a level 4 paladin, you're going to have a 4 base attack bonus. Same thing with ranger, and all the other classes that I just listed, they all have a good base attack bonus. So they increase every level, even if you're multi-classing. These classes give you more base attack bonus, which is actually a reason that people like to multi-class into things like fighter, because of this base attack bonus progression. It can really help with classes that struggle hitting things. But I wouldn't recommend multi-classing until you're much more familiar with the game's mechanics and you're willing to experiment through trial and error different builds. As a matter of fact, as a quick note, if you're new to the game, I recommend sticking to one class and trying to build around that one class rather than trying to multi-class. Classes in Pathfinder are much better when you level them by themselves and stay in that one class than if you spread yourself out among multiple classes. Just in general, because of the way the progression system works. So anyway, that's good base attack bonus. So next we have average base attack bonus, and this is where I get frustrated because it doesn't show you how this actually progresses after first level, which is a problem. If it even showed up to 4, that would be useful, right? So how average base attack bonus progresses is you get essentially what is a base attack bonus equal to 3/4, so 75% of your level. So at 4th level, we'll have a base attack bonus of 3. How it actually progresses is it would look like something like 0 at 1st level, 1 at 2nd level, 2 at 3rd level, 3 at 4th level, and then 3 again at 5th level, then 4 at 6th level. So if you ever want to know what your base attack bonus is roughly, and it'll show you on your character sheet as well. If you are nothing, say you're a pure rogue, if you're 8th level, right? So we multiply 8 by 0.75 and we get 6. So our base attack bonus at 8th level as a rogue is 6. And the classes that have average base attack bonus, I believe it's actually the biggest category of base attack bonus. We have the Alchemist has an average base attack bonus, the Bard, the Cleric, the Druid, the Inquisitor, the Magus, the Rogue, the Dragon Disciple, I believe, although that could have been changed. And that's I think that's it actually. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. So all of these classes have a base attack bonus equal to 3/4 of their level at any given time. Now, if you multi-class, right, say you're a 4th level rogue and a 4th level fighter. So a 4th level fighter has a base attack bonus of 4, and a 4th level rogue has a base attack bonus of 3. So overall, you're an 8th level character, but your base attack bonus, you would add the two together, and you would have a 7 base attack bonus. Last but not least, we have the poor category of base attack bonus, and only 2 base classes actually have this base attack bonus, and it is Sorcerer and Wizard. Sorcerers and Wizards have a base attack bonus equal to 1/2 their level, essentially. And how it starts, more or less, is you have 0 at 1st level, you have 1 at 2nd level, 1 at 3rd level, and then at 4th level you go up to +2, 5th level you go up to +2, 6th level you go up to +3, etc. So as you can tell, so let's just do a side-by-side comparison, right? So good base attack bonus characters are typically focused around hitting targets with physical attacks, as you might expect. But just to put it into a comparison of how much better they are at it, at 6th level, a fighter is going to have a +6 to his base attack, so just from his level alone, he has a +6 to hit. Rogues at 6th level will only have a +4 to hit, and sorcerers will only have a +3 to hit at 6th level. So as you can see, fighters, paladins, barbarians are, just by virtue of their level, much more likely to be able to hit things, and because of the way the game's scaling works, you will find that as time passes, classes like rogues can eventually begin to struggle to hit their targets. And so there are a number of reasons to get around this, but that requires a dedicated video all of its own. But one last important note about base attack bonus, now that I've explained it sufficiently, every 5 points after 1 of base attack bonus that you get an extra attack at a -5 to your base attack bonus. So if you have a +6 to your base attack bonus, your first attack uses the +6 and then adds all other modifiers as normal, and then as long as you have a full round to attack, so you haven't moved in that turn, you get a second attack that is only at a +1 base attack bonus instead of the normal +6 that you would have. So typically for good base attack bonus characters, you would get this second attack starting at 6th level. Average BAB characters, and BAB is short for base attack bonus, average BAB characters are going to get their second attack at 8th level, and classes like Sorcerer and Wizard are going to get their second attack at 12th level. And this keeps going up until you reach a base attack bonus of 16, wherein you will have 4 attacks in a single round. I believe if I'm doing the math correctly in my head, I don't think that average BAB characters ever reach the 4th attack, but don't consider that necessarily a downside at 20th level, because at that point the 4th attack is at such a low attack bonus compared to the rest of your attacks that most of the time it doesn't land even for martial characters anyway. So don't worry too much there. But yeah, so that's base attack bonus. And the thing is, I really wish they would at least include like the grade of base attack bonus, because they don't. So it's really, really hard to build characters without that information. Anyway, let's move on to saving throws. And saving throws uses a similar concept. First, let's talk about what a saving throw is. A saving throw is an attempt to resist something that isn't a direct attack. So what do I mean by this? So like an arrow that shoots at you, right? That's going to go against your armor, and if it gets through your armor, so if the attack roll was high enough, it hits you and it does damage. But what about things that aren't like attacks like that? So poisons, a lightning bolt spell, and mind control are the 3 best ways that I can describe saving throws on things that you're trying to resist. So in the case of the poison, so anything that you think like a tough guy would be able to do, like resist being knocked down or getting poisoned, that is going to use your Fortitude save. So if something's attacking you and it's got poison and your character's got a good Fortitude save, like a fighter, then you're going to be more likely, not immune, but more likely to actually resist those attacks. And the same concept applies with reflex and will saves. Reflex saves are typically against things like dodging things, or say like a pit trap opens up underneath you. Your reflex save is going to determine how good you are at avoiding things that are coming your way, except for attacks. Attacks use attack rolls and your AC. But things like trying to avoid falling into a pit, or someone shoots a lightning bolt at you and you're trying to dodge it, or you're trying to get out of the way of a fireball, that's what reflex saves are going to be used for. And last but not least, will saves. So this is your character's mental resistance, basically. So if someone tries to cast a fear effect on you, or they try to mind control you, your will save is going to be your resistance against that. Fortitude saves are governed, so they get improved by your Constitution bonus. So if you have a 16 Constitution, you have a +3. That means you'll have a +3 to your Fortitude saves on top of the base that your class gives you, because saves are also tied to class. Will saves use Wisdom, and Reflex saves use Dexterity. So all 3 of those stats are important for improving your saving throws, and it's why it's usually not a good idea to completely dump any of those stats when building a character. Now, saving throws have 2 progressions instead of the 3 that base attack bonus has. Saving throws are either good or bad. A good fortitude or a good saving throw is equal to 2, a base of 2, plus 1/3 the character's level. So, for example, a 9th level character is going to have I believe if I'm doing this correctly, hold on, I need to redo the math in my head. Okay, sorry. So a good saving throw is equal to 2 plus 1/2 of your character's class level of that saving throw. So for example, a fighter has a good fortitude save. So at 10th level, you would take half of his class level, which is equal to 5, and then add 2. So at 10th level, a fighter has a base fortitude save of +7. And that's just always on, and that's before adding Constitution or any other magical modifiers or otherwise. A bad saving throw, so for fighter that's will and reflex. So fighters are really, they're easier than other classes to mind control or scare or shoot fireballs at. A bad saving throw progresses at 1/3 of the character's level. So a 9th level fighter will have a base will and reflex save of +3. And so when you're building characters, one thing you need to consider is do I want to be good at the save, or do I want something else instead? So for example, let's talk about the fighter again, because it's the easiest class to talk about, perhaps, in this regard. When you're thinking about how you want to build your fighter, the question may come up, do I want more strength, or do I want more intelligence? And am I willing to sacrifice my wisdom score, because you should have a decent dexterity score as a fighter to take advantage of their class features, pretty much regardless of which archetype you take, except for two-handed fighter. you have to ask yourself, am I willing to sacrifice my wisdom score to get more intelligence or more charisma? Because certain feats, so for example, say you want your fighter to be good at combat maneuvers. For example, you want your character to be good at tripping or disarming people, like smart combat maneuvers. You need to have an intelligence of at least 13 to take a feat that's called combat expertise. And so you have to put your points up to 13 to actually get there. But the problem is you usually have to sacrifice another area in order to keep your physical stats good while you're building the fighter. So that can kind of be a tough choice, because if you're lowering your wisdom, your will save is lower, and that means your character is going to be less likely to actually be able to resist certain attacks. And remember, you're only getting one base save point for will and reflex every 3 levels. So that means that sort of thing can be very, very difficult to actually get going without natural stats. And it also makes feats that may not seem that good on the surface, specifically the 3 types of saving feats. For Fortitude, there is Great Fortitude. For Will, there is the Iron Will feat. And 3, the Reflex feat is called Lightning Reflexes. All 3 of these feats give you a +2 to the category of save that it is tied to. And that may not sound like a lot, but again, on a bad save, a +2 to a bad save is effectively 6 levels of that save. So if you take Iron Will on a fighter, you're effectively 6 levels ahead of another fighter that hasn't taken Iron Will. Now that doesn't mean you should necessarily take Iron Will all the time on fighters, but it is worth noting that fighters with decent wisdom scores, usually around 14 is what I shoot for personally, and you take the Iron Will feat, and you have a bravery on the normal fighter, I find that they're actually quite resilient to fear effects. And this is useful because if your fighter gets affected by a fear effect, they're going to be running for the hills. And having 14 wisdom and Iron Will, you'll have a base +4 to your will save on top of whatever your class gives you, which is huge. It's usually around a 20% flat, like additional percentage to actually making will saves. But yeah, so that's how saving throws work. You should be conscious when you pick a class what kind of saving throws they're good at, and when you're building your character, consider if you need saving feats to make them better. For example, on spellcasters, the Lightning Reflexes feat can be extremely useful because sorcerers and wizards don't have good reflex saves. They only have good will saves. So if you take Lightning Reflexes, that means if another wizard shoots a fireball at you, you're that much more likely to actually dodge that effect. So always be looking at your saves as something, because saving throws are very common in these games, and it's how you resist nasty debuffs like poison, like mind control, like fear, and like fireballs and pit traps and things like that. So always be on the lookout for your saving throws. You can at least tell in the creator whether or not your class has a good saving throw, because for the saving throw at level 1, it will show you a +2 for good saving throws and a 0 for poor saving throws. Okay, last but not least, I want to explain a concept called hit die. I don't know if it actually... I don't think it actually does, which is really painful, actually. I'm surprised they didn't include this. So every class has what's called a hit die, and it determines how many hit points that class gets at every level. So real quick, I have all these memorized, so I'm just going to go ahead and list off every hit die. And how a hit die works is when you level up and you gain hit points, you roll your class's hit die, the class that you're leveling into, and add your Constitution bonus, and that determines your health that you get for that level. At first level, you automatically get maximum hit points. So again, we'll use the fighter as an example. A fighter has a D10, so a 10-sided hit die. So at first level, he automatically gets 10 hit points plus his Constitution modifier, which will be this plus right here. I need some water. But anyway, so every class has a hit die, and when we would level up this fighter, we would roll 1 D10, and we would add our Constitution modifier to it. So if we have a +3 to our Constitution, we would roll a 10-sided die. That means we could get anywhere from 4 to 13 hit points upon level up. Which can be pretty random, admittedly, So that's just something to look out for, because it's not going to be consistent and every character is going to end up having different health. Which personally I find exciting. It adds more personality to each playthrough, but some people may need to know that to be able to plan around it in the event that they're playing a character that doesn't have a lot of health. And it's one of the reasons that having a low constitution score can really mess up your character, because you can roll a 1, and if you have a -1, you'll only get 1 hit point for the level still, but it could have been 2 hit points instead, which is better than 1, But anyway, let me go through each class and tell you what hit die they have. So Alchemist has a D8 hit die. Barbarian has a D12 hit die. It is the highest hit die in the game. Bards have a D8 hit die. Clerics have a D8. Druids have a D8. Fighters have a D10. Inquisitors have a D8. The Magus has a D8. The Monk has a D10. The Paladin has a D10. The Ranger has a D10. The Rogue has a D8. And the Sorcerer and the Wizard have a D6 hit die. If I recall correctly, the Arcane Trickster has a D6. The Stalwart Defender Prestige class has a D10 or a D12. The Eldritch Knight Prestige class has a D8 or a D6. I can't remember which. The Dragon Disciple, I believe, has a D8 or a D10. The Mystic Thurge has a D6. And the Duelist has a D10 hit die. So again, every time you level up, you will roll a die of that class's hit die. And what I actually recommend you do is, if you want to know what your class's hit die is, if you don't want to refer to this video every time you do it, go look for your class, type into Google your class's name, Pathfinder OGC. OGC is one word, it's 3 letters, OGC. So Fighter Pathfinder OGC. It'll take you to the unofficial Pathfinder reference online, where you can actually see your class's statistics. It has a lot of it has like all the level up information there, and it's more or less the same as this for every class. But there you can also see your character's hit die. But anyway, so one reason that hit die is important is another reason that base attack bonus is important. So let me back up to base attack bonus, and then we'll get back to hit die. So base attack bonus also allows you to qualify for certain feats. The best one I can think of off the top of my head is the improved critical feat, which doubles the critical hit range of a weapon. So, for example, say you have a longsword, which threatens a critical hit on a 19 and a 20. When you have a base attack bonus of 8, you can take the improved critical feat, and this improves the longsword's critical hit range on the d20 to threaten one. Instead of just being 19 and 20, it begins to threaten on 17 and 18, as well as 19 and 20. So instead of only having a 10% chance to threaten a crit, you have a 20% chance to threaten a crit. Weapons like the Rapier, that have a critical hit base of 18 through 20 to threaten, go down to 15 through 20. So having a base attack bonus of 8 to unlock this feat is obviously very important for improving massively the damage output of melee classes, pretty much regardless of whichever class you take. Improved critical with a given weapon is usually a good idea. On top of that, so let's get back to hit die. Hit die doesn't come up quite as often, but it is important to note as a general concept the idea of hit die. So if you're multi-classing, for example, say you've taken 4 levels of fighter and 3 levels of rogue. In that instance, you effectively have 7 hit die, because you're overall a 7th level character. So it's important to know in this game that having a low hit die, and going up against something that has a lot of hit die is usually a bad idea, just because it's effectively leveled up more than you. So a lot of monsters don't actually have a class level, they just have a lot of hit die. Usually more than your characters do, but it depends on the creature, of course. That being said, the main reason I bring up hit die is because a lot of spells only affect a certain amount of hit die, which is abbreviated to HD in spell descriptions, and the best one I can give is the level 1 example of the sleep spell. The sleep spell affects up to 4 hit die of creatures. So if, say your party is all 2nd level, so you have 4 2nd level characters, so each of them have 2 hit die, and someone casts a sleep spell at your general direction, it will affect 2 of your 4 characters because it's only affecting 4 total hit die. And so the same thing applies if you're casting sleep at someone. If you're targeting things with low hit die, then your sleep spell is going to be much more effective than if it was targeting a lot of people with a high hit die. So anyway, I hope I've sufficiently explained a lot of this. If you have any questions, be sure to leave a comment, and subscribe if you want to see more Pathfinder guides in the future. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you on the next one.